Okay, so today I'm going to start on the packet that we're handing out in class. Yesterday you took your benchmark test, and so today we're going to start on packet ee.1 through 4, which is expressions and equations. It's a very big unit. It's a very big standard. So what I do is break it into three parts, three tests. So we're going to do ee1 through 4 this week. Next week we'll look at 5 through 7. And then the following week we'll look at 8, which is actually 8A, B, 8B, and 8C. It's systems of equations, so it's a pretty big packet as well. So what I'm going to do on this is I'm going to break this into two videos. What we're going to do today is try to get through EE1 and 2, and then tomorrow I get through EE3 and 4. So today will be half of the packet, tomorrow will be the other half, and then on Thursday you'll take your test on 1 through 4, which will come from the packet. You will turn the packet in on Thursday, and it should be completed. The answers obviously should be correct because I'm about to work them with you. So basically it's a notes grade, and everybody should get a 100. If you're absent, you are required to go back and complete those. You can watch the videos for how to work them and the correct answers. You can get them from a friend, or you can work them yourself and then check the answers. I'll post a copy of the final answers on Wednesday, so you'll be able to get it multiple ways. So let's go ahead and start with the first page, which is EE1. And a lot of this stuff involves just punching stuff in the calculator, like exponents and things of that nature, scientific notation, those kind of things. So I'm going to start. Remember, we're always going to be using our calculator, so you're going to hear me mention a lot of things about that. So I'm going to start with number 1, and we're just going to work through. Number 1, write an equivalent expression for 6 to the 3rd times 6 to the 2nd times 6 to the 5th times 6. All you have to do is take your base, which is the 6, and then add your exponents. Anytime you multiply, we add exponents. Remember, the one on the end that doesn't have one has an understood 1. So we add 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So number 1 is 6 to the 11th power. Number 2, select all the pairs of equivalent expressions. So what we want to do is take each one and see if they're equal. So what I want to do is take the very first one, 5 to the 3rd times 5, and if you punch that in your calculator, 5 to the 3rd times 5, I got 625. And if I type in 25 squared, I need to see if I get the same thing. And 25 squared is also 625. So they are definitely equal, so I would mark the first one. The second one, 5 to the 3rd times 4 squared. So again, you're just punching that in your calculator. 5 to the 3rd times 4 squared is 2,000. And the other one, 20 to the 6th power, is not 2,000. It's actually 64 million. So a lot bigger number. So that one's not equivalent. The third one, 6 to the 2nd to the 3rd, you can punch that in your calculator. And that would equal 46,656. On the other side, 6 to the 5th power, that is 7,776. So those are not equal. Now go to the next one, 3 to the 2nd to the 3rd. And I am using parentheses on that when I put that in the calculator. And that's 729. And then if you do 3 to the 2nd times 3 to the 2nd times 3 to the 2nd, you get 729 as well. So we're going to mark that one as equivalent. And then the very last one, 5 to the 4th times 5 to the 4th times 5 to the 4th. That is a huge number, 244,140,625. Now let's see what the other side is. 5 to the 4th in parentheses raised to the 4th again. And that is a big long decimal. Actually, they make it scientific notation, so it's 1.53 times 10 to the 11th, which is not the same thing. So there's 1 and 2. Number 3, which expression is equivalent to 3 to the 7th divided by 9? So I'm just going to type that in my calculator, 3 to the 7th divided by 9, and I got 243. All I have to do is see which one of these is equal to 243. So punch them in the calculator. 1 to the 7th divided by 3. That's actually 0.3 repeating. 3 to the 6th.
7th and 8th grade can go ahead and change classes.
That is 729. 3 to the 5th.
Period.
That's 243. Looks like that's going to be my answer. And then 1 to the 5th divided by 3 is also 0.3 repeating. So the correct answer is C. Okay, and then number 4, match the equivalent expressions. And again, you just punch these in the calculator. 5 to the 0 is 1. Anything to the 0 is 1. 5 squared is 25. 5 to the negative 2 is 1 over 25. And 5 to the 1st is 5. Okay, so to continue number 5, simplify the expression 2 to the 4th divided by 2 to the 10th. And again, same, just punch that in your calculator. 2 raised to the 4th, divide 2 raised to the 10th. And I get a decimal, 0.015625. And if I'm going to simplify that, I'm going to turn it into a fraction because I think it'll look neater. So I'm going to hit second on the calculator and then FD, which is my PRB button, and then equal. And that does simplify to 1 over 64. Number 6, select all the expressions that are equivalent to 2 to the 3rd times 4 to the 3rd. Well, if I punch that in my calculator, 2 to the 3rd times 4 to the 3rd, I get 512. So all I want to do is check each one of these, and whichever ones are equal to 512, I want to mark those as equivalent because they're equal. So 4 to the 6th, that one is 4,096, so it's not. 8 to the 3rd, that one is 512, so I'm going to mark it. 2 to the 8th, that one's 256. 2 to the 9th, that one is 512. Mark that one, and I forgot to write 512 on the second one. And then the last one is 8 to the 6th, and that one is 262,144, which is not 512. Okay, number 7, rewrite 1/7 in parentheses to the negative 2 power with a positive exponent. So remember, if you have a negative exponent, you can move it to the bottom and it becomes a positive exponent. Well, in this case, if you have a fraction, 1/7, and you raise it to the negative 2, to make that be a positive, what you would do is actually pull the 7 to the top and then make the negative 2 exponent a positive. So that's the same as 7 squared. Number 8, simplify 5 squared times 5 to the 4th times 5 to the negative 3. And again, you write down your base, which is 5, and then you add exponents. So 2 plus 4 plus negative 3. And you can do that in your calculator if you're not sure. And that becomes 5 to the 3rd power. Number 9, the last one on this page, is 2 to the 3rd times 3 squared equal to 6 to the 5th. Well, type it in your calculator, 2 to the 3rd times 3 squared, and I get 72. And 6 to the 5th, if you type that in your calculator, I get 7,776. So the question is 2 to the 3rd times 3 squared equal to 6 to the 5th. My answer would be no. And explain why. I would say 2 to the 3rd times 3 squared is equal to 72. And 6 to the 5th is equal to 7,776. And that proves that they're not equal. Next page, number 10. What is the value of 6 to the 5th times 6 to the negative 8? And I'm just going to punch that in the calculator. 6 to the 5th times 6 to the negative 8. And I got a decimal. And if I hit my second and my PRB button to turn it into a fraction, I get 1 over 216. And again, I did every bit of that on the calculator. Number 11, which expression has a value that is less than 0? And less than 0 would be negative. Well, 8 to the 0 is 1, so that's not correct. Negative 8 to the 0 would be negative, and then 8 to the 0 would be 1. And that is less than 0, so that's a negative, so that's B. C is equal to 1 as well. And D would be equal to 64. So the only one less than 0 is B. Number 12, which expression has a value greater than 1? Okay, 7 to the negative 2. If you put that in the calculator, you can make that a decimal or fraction. I choose to make it a fraction, 1 over 49. That's not bigger than 1. 7 to the negative 1 is 0.14, and that's rounded. 1/7 to the negative 2 is 49, and then negative 7 squared is negative 49. And the only one that's greater than 1 is C. Number 13, what is the value of 3 to the 7th divided by 3 to the 8th times 3 to the 4th? So put that in your calculator. 3 to the 7th, divide 3 to the 8th, times 3 to the 4th. And I get an answer of 27. Now my answers down here are not written that way, they're with exponents. So I just need to figure out which one is equal to 27. So start with A, 3 to the 3rd, and that is 27, so that is my answer, A. Number 14, is 5 to the 4th times 3 to the 4th equal 15 to the 4th, a true statement? And if I do those in the calculator and punch that in, on the left side I get 50,625. On the right side, if I punch in 15 to the 4th, I also get 50,625. So my answer is yes. Number 15, which expression has a value less than 1? Punch them in your calculator and see what you get. 1/9 to the negative 2 power is 81. 9 to the 0 is 1. 9 to the negative 1 is 1/9, or as a decimal, 0.1 repeating. And then negative 1/9 to the negative 2 is also 81. So which one is less than 1? C. Number 16, what is the value of 1/5 to the negative 2 times 5 to the 3rd, divide 5 to the 7th? And I would just punch all that in the calculator exactly like you see it, using parentheses and everything. And I get a decimal. I'm going to turn that into a fraction. As a fraction, that's 1 over 25, D. 17, select all the pairs of expressions that are equivalent, which means equal. So I'm going to just match them up and see if they are. The first one, 6 to the 7th divided by 6 to the negative 2 is 10,077,696. And 6 to the 5th is 7,776. So those are not equal. The next one is 6 to the 3rd to the 0. That's 1. And 6 to the 1 is 6. So those are not equal. The next one is 5 to the negative 1 times 5 to the negative 1. That's 0.04. And then 25 to the negative 1 is 0.04 as well. So that one works. The fourth one, 8 to the 0 times 8 to the 3rd in the calculator is 512. And then 8 to the 3rd on the right is also 512. So that one works. And the last one, 4 to the negative 3 divided by 4 squared is 0.00098. On the right side, 4 to the 5th is 1,024, not equal. So the ones that are not equal, then we just do not mark as answers. And the last one is, which expression is equivalent to 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 3. And if you punch all that in the calculator, you get 432. Again, none of these choices is 432, so I just have to figure out which one is equal to that. 2 times 6 squared is 72. That's not right. 3 times 2 to the 4th is 48. 8 times 9 is 72. And 2 times 6 to the 3rd is 432. There's your answer, D. All right. Use properties of exponents to write an equivalent expression for 11 squared times 11 to the 5th. You just use the base and add exponents. It would be 11 to the 7th. Number 2, use properties of exponents to write an equivalence expression for 5 to the 4th times 5 to the negative 7. Adding exponents would be 5 to the negative 3, and then make that positive by moving it to the bottom. So that's B. Number 3, use properties of exponents, write an equivalent expression for 13 to the 9, divide 13 to the 6. Dividing would be subtract your exponents. So that would be 13 to the third power D. 4, use properties to write an equivalent expression for 9 to the 4th raised to the 6th. When you have an exponent on top of another exponent, you leave the base and you multiply the exponents. 9 to the 24th power is A. 5, simplify this expression. 8 to the 5th to the 0 is 1, plus 7 plus 3 is 10 to the 6th times 10 to the negative 8. So that's 1 plus 10 to the 6th times 10 to the negative 8. And I got 1.01. As a fraction, because I don't see that answer choice, second and PRB gives me 1 and 1 over 100. And that's B. Number 6, which of the following expressions are equivalent to 14 to the 6th power? 14 to the 6th power is equal to 7,529,536. And I just take A, B, C, D, E, and F and punch those in my calculator to see which ones are equal to that same answer. A is not. B is. C is not. D is not. E is not. And F is. And again, just punch those in the calculator. Number 7, which of the following expressions have value less than 1? So we're looking for an answer that is less than 1. So it could be negative, or it could be 0, or it could be a fraction that's lower than 1. So now A is 4 to the 11th divided by 4 to the 14th. That is correct. B, 3 to the 5th squared divided by 3 to the 4th. That is not. That is actually 729. So it's not bigger, less than 1, I mean. Letter C, 4 to the negative 1 times 4 to the 5th. That's 256, so that's not correct. D is correct, E is correct, and F is correct. So A, D, E, and F. Okay, down at the bottom, number 8, we're going to determine whether the properties of exponents are used correctly. Remember, when you multiply, you add exponents. When you divide, you subtract. And when you raise a power to another power, you multiply exponents. So A, you should subtract your exponents, not divide them. That's no. And if you're not sure about the rules of the exponents, punch them in your calculator. Do 5 to the 10th divided by 5 to the 5th. That gives you 3125. And then do the other side, 5 squared. That's not the same answer. So you can do it that way as well. The next one, you multiply exponents, so that's a yes. The next one, you move it to the bottom and make it positive, but you don't switch the base and the exponent, so that one's a no. D, you are supposed to add exponents, that's a no. And then E, anything raised to the 0 power does equal 1, yes. Number 9, the last one, find the missing exponent. 5 to the 11th divided by 5 to what equals 5 to the 4th? Well, the rule says you would subtract exponents. So 11 minus what equals 4? And that makes the answer 7. Okay, the next page, ee.2. Which number is a perfect square? A perfect square is a number that you can take the square root of and it comes out a whole number. And it's going to be A, because the square root of 4 equals 2. Number 2, the area of a square is 36 centimeters squared. What's the side length? All you have to do is take the square root of it, and the square root of 36 is 6 centimeters. Number 3, solve the equation x squared equals 6. Well, to solve that, you do the opposite of square. You square root 6. And when you square root, you can get a positive or a negative. So the correct answer to that will be D, plus or minus, which means positive or negative square root of 6. Number 4, solve the equation x squared equals 49. So you would take the square root of 49, which would be a positive or a negative 7. Number 5, which is an irrational number? An irrational number, when you punch it in the calculator, is a decimal that does not repeat and it does not terminate. So, square root of 16 down here is 4. Cube root of 8 is 2. Square root of 4 is 2. But the square root of 2, if you put that in your calculator, is a decimal that just keeps going and going and it doesn't stop and it doesn't repeat. So it's A. Number 6, Karen's making a frame for a square picture with an area of 169. How many inches of framing are needed? Well, if you take the square root of 169, you can figure out what one side of the frame is, and that's 13. So if one side of the frame is 13 and it's a square, so there are 4 sides, you would do 4 times 13, which would give us 52 inches of frame that she needs. Number 7, a cube-shaped box has a volume of 95. Which equation would you use to determine the length of one edge? You would do the cube root of 95. So that's C. Number 8, solve the equation x equals the cube root of 216. Well, you just punch that in your calculator. The cube root of 216 is x equals 6. Number 9, solve the equation x squared equals 121. So to solve the square, you do the opposite and you square root 121, which would give us the answer positive or negative 11. And you can only do the positive or negative when it's a square root, not a cube root. Number 10, Maria is building a fence around a yard in the shape of a square. The area of the yard is 169. How many feet of fencing does Maria need? This is just like question number 6. I don't know why they gave you the exact same. But if you take the square root of 169, one side of the yard is 13 feet. And obviously, if you've got a square, you've got 4 sides. So how much fencing will she need? 13 times 4 sides would be 52 feet. So that's B. Okay, number 11, Enrico is laying 1 foot square tiles on a square bathroom floor. If he needs 81 tiles to cover the floor, how many tiles run along each wall? Square root of 81 would be 9. Number 12, Eli has 600 cubes that are 1 cubic inch. Select the smallest length a cube-shaped box can have while being able to hold 600 cubes. Well, if we take the cube root of 600, we get 8.43 rounded. So we couldn't go over 8. Well, let's look. 8 cubed is 512. 9 cubed is 729. So if he's got 600 cubes, he's going to be between 8 and 9, obviously, 8.43. So the smallest, he couldn't actually do 8 because that wouldn't work on the floor, so it would have to be 9 inches. 13, the perimeter of a square is 20 feet. What's the area of that square? Well, if you have a square, they're all the same side. And 20 divided by 4 is 5. If the perimeter is 20, that means every side is 5. What's the area? The area is length times width, so 5 times 5 is 25. Number 14, solve the equation x cubed equals 0.027. That would be the cube root of 0.027. And the cube root of that would be 0.3, and it's just positive A. Number 15, Lisa has a cube-shaped box with a volume of 512 centimeters cube. If Lisa fills the box with 1 cubic centimeter blocks, how many blocks make up each layer? Well, it's a cube, so let's take the cube root of 512, and we get 8. Now, if she has a box, and she's putting blocks down in there, 8 times 8, there would be 8 rows and 8 columns, stacks. So 8 times 8 would be 64 blocks in every layer. Number 16, select all pairs that are equivalent. 1 to the third and 1 squared. Those are both equal to 1. Square root of 729 and 3 to the third. Those are both equal to 27. The third one is square root of 81 and 3 to the third. Those are not the same. And then the fourth one, 8 squared and 4 to the third is both are 64. And then cube root of 64 and 4 squared. Those are not the same. 17, a cube-shaped box has a volume of 1331 cubic inches. How would you determine the area of one side? Set the volume equal to x cubed, solve for x, and then multiply that by 6. So that one is A. And I know that because if the volume is 1331 cubic inches, then I would take the cube root of that. We get 11. And to find the area, you would do 11 times 11. And remember, because this is a cube, every edge is the same. So we're doing area, that's 121. So that's how you would do it. Okay, last page for this one. Evaluate the square root of 1/4, and you can just punch that in your calculator. Make sure you close a parenthesis. The square root of 1/4 is b 1/2. Number 2, what is the value of x if x squared equals 10? We'll take the square root of 10. Because it's a square root, you can do the plus or the minus, A. Number 3, evaluate cube root of 8/27. Do that in the calculator, and you get 2/3. 4, what is the value of x if x cubed equals 100? You take the cube root of 100, and that can only be the positive. 5, Colin has a square garden with an area of 97 square feet. What's the length of each side? Take the square root, and that would give you square root of 97. 6, select all correct answers. For which value of x is the expression square root of x irrational? Well, the square root of 1 equals 1, so that's not irrational. The square root of 2 is irrational. The square root of 3 is. The square root of 4 is equal to 2, so that one's not. And then the square root of 5 is. Number 7, which of the following expressions are equivalent to rational numbers? So rational numbers is numbers you can write as a fraction. So A is 0.2, which is 2/10, so that's rational. B is the square root of 2. We've already said that's irrational. C is the cube root of 1, and that is 1, so that's rational. D is the cube root of 3, that's irrational. Cube root of 9, that's irrational. You can punch these in your calculator to see these cube roots that are just decimals that just keep going and they don't stop. Those are irrational. And then F is square root of 9/64, which is 3/8, which is 0.375, and that one is rational. Match the radical expression with the equivalent. Square root of 4 is equal to 2, that's G. Square root of 81 is 9, that's H. Square root of 0.25 is E, 0.5. Cube root of 1/64 is D, 1/4. Cube root of -1/8 is A, -1/2. And square root of 49 is F, 0.7. And again, punch those in your calculator is all you have to do. 14, Monica's rectangular living room is 12 feet by 15 feet. She has a square rug that covers 5/9 of the area of the floor. What is the side length of the square rug? Well, I know if her living room is 15 by 12, then the living room has an area of 180 square feet. If I times that by 5/9, because the rug covers 5/9 of the floor, that gives me 100. So 100 is the area of the rug. To find the side length, I just square root that, and I get 10 feet is the side length of this rug. And the last one, 15, is if n cubed equals 64, what's the value of n squared? Well, to find n, you do the cube root of 64, which is 4. And then to find that squared, you just say 4 squared, and that gives you 16. And that is your answer.